All right, welcome everyone. What a gift. What a gift to spend time with one of my friends, literary heroes, and total expert in this space. We're talking mental health and we're talking about supporting families during a really challenging time. And our goal right now is just to bring resources in around you, including one of the absolute best in the business, Dr. Michele Borba. For a quick introduction, my name is Houston. I'm one of the co-founders of Character Strong. Today, get a chance to chat with Michele. Dr. Borba, tell us who you are, a little context as to why this conversation will be meaningful today for families.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm a mom. That's number one. I have 3 boys, but I was a former teacher. I'm an educational psychologist now, and I'm working with schools across the country and around the world. And there isn't a place anywhere that is not concerned about what's happening with COVID, what it's doing in terms of to our kids' mental health. And the most important thing is, how do we reach parents? So I'm so glad to be talking to you about this.
Incredible. Before we dive into the good stuff, I want to know, what's one thing you've given the world that you're really proud of besides your children?
Oh, thanks. I wrote a book called Unselfie, and I had no idea that it was going to resonate so much, but actually that was based on traveling the world, and I began to see the one commonality everywhere is that children needed empathy. It was declining, but was when I say it was the greatest thing that I ever did, is because all the best answers came from schools all over the world. So once I realized this is something we can do, we have to do it, and everybody can do it. It's not a program, it's about people. And when we get on board to realize our kids need something more than that GPA and that test score, we're now beginning to realize mental health, and we got to teach them coping skills are absolutely critical. I think empathy lies at the base of it all.
That's been revealed, of course, in the current realities of the world. And I think our, in many ways, lack of those skills has become quickly evident. So what are you seeing in the state of mental health? And I'm sure families are, of course, viscerally aware of some of these things, but at a high level, what are we seeing? And then let's dive into solutions.
Well, I think the most dismal thing we're seeing is that what we all know is that our children are suffering from particularly social distancing and isolation, ongoing stress and anxiety. And we know it just not in our hearts and seeing our kids, but some of the best research in the world is coming out. First, we analyzed what was happening with kids in China. The same thing, we looked at what was happening in kids in the UK. Bulgaria just released a study. But last week, the CDC just released a study and should have put us all on alert mode. The number one thing they're concerned about in just the last couple of months is that visits to the emergency room in the United States with our kids have tripled in just a few months, and they're blaming it all on the CDC, on COVID, on social distancing, and not helping our kids being able to handle the stress. We're seeing it, by the way, in 4 different levels. When we look at toddlers, they're doing okay, and finally, they're healthily oblivious to all of this. They're doing okay if we're okay. What we're seeing, though, is the first change happened with our younger set. Our kids from 4 to 10 are actually far more fearful. They're more worrisome. That's step 1. We're then looking at 11 to 15-year-olds who are more stressed. They're concerned, and that's going up. But the rise that put everybody in alert mode was that our 15 to about 18-year-olds were far more depressed and suicidal. Those were the visits to the ER ward. So let's not get to that level. Let's prevent it. Let's see what we can do. And there are things we can.
Some of my favorite things you talk about, Michele, are around this idea of the empathy gap, the things that prevent us from connection. Obviously, physically distanced from each other is a key piece, but I think the thing I quote more than just about anything in my work is that the biggest barriers for empathy, which I think is a little bit of a synonym for connection and feeling connected to each other, are things like anxiety, fear, and narcissism. Fear and anxiety, we could just talk about increasing, as you just articulated, in kids from all ages. So then what do we do on the far side of that? We know we need connection, we need coping. How do we get there?
We get creative. We always are as parents. We always are as educators. We're going to think outside the box because our kids need it. If empathy isn't there or connection isn't there, what happens is stress starts to build. Kids start to dial their empathy levels down, which is the base of their mental health, we now know. And that's when burnout and emptiness comes. Our children are saying they're feeling desolate. They're feeling extremely lonely. They're feeling extraordinarily fearful. What do they need? Number one, at home, they need us to be calm. So if we could do anything, we got to put ourselves back on the plate. We've got to just realize that just be with your child. Lower your bar, lower your expectations. Your goal is just to help your kid thrive or survive through this time. And that's with you. They mirror how you are. So maybe the first thing is pick up a pencil and paper and say, I'm going to start figuring out what helps me be calm or what boosts my own empathy. If you at least announce that to your kids and to your most verbal kid in your house, that's the gold set. All day long, Mom, you're supposed to be taking that deep breath. Or remember, Mom, you're supposed to be doing that reading. If kids see you doing it, what they'll do is start to figuring out, oh, maybe that's something I can do as well. So step one is that. Step two is realizing our children do need connection and now they can't have it. So what do? We get creative. We can do one thing, and that is what reduces anxiety is rituals and routines. What boosts it is uncertainty. So let's figure out on a day-to-day basis, let's just say, what time would you like to have a play date with your friend if you're a little one? What time would you like to have that learning buddy call you each day so you could go over your spelling or your math facts? Connect with another parent who has a kid in your son's class, your daughter's class, get together, because that's when we can all get on board together. But if your child knows at 9 o'clock every day, John's going to call me and we're just going to spend 5 minutes face to face, that's great. By the way, when I say face to face, not texting, talking with either Skype or Zoom or FaceTime, because empathy breeds from face-to-face connection, or at least hearing the person's voice tone. You're not getting that when you're texting. And as a result, those opportunities to help our kids practice social skills go down. Now, at an upper level, keep going. Some of those brilliant ideas I have come across come from teens who tell me what they're doing to keep their connection up. The first thing they're doing is one group of kids in Chicago set up a Google Doc when they're actually doing movie nights. They figured out from their parents, what are the movies you always wanted to see? Now, here's the movies we always wanted to see. Now they're doing a shared Google Doc amongst all of their friends so that Wednesday night, the entire neighborhood is watching a movie, social distancing in your house, but everybody's phone is on. Maybe they're watching Shawshank Redemption or Inside Out or whatever, but they're watching it with their parents. Some of them even have their grandparents on the phone. So their grandparents are sitting there listening to the movie and talking it through together. That's a fabulous idea. That kind of thing. Book clubs. One of the greatest things that I've discovered when I'm working on a book called Thrivers on what helps kids be resilient. Kids who read. It's not that it's going to boost their academic achievement. It's a getting into a book and helping them relax. So maybe another thing that you could do is start a middle school or a third grade or a high school book club based on what kids want to read. Make sure it's the same time each week. They can read and talk together. A final one that it's a fabulous idea is back to resilience. Over and over again, it keeps saying that resilient children have hobbies. Well, you know what, Houston, we never gave our kids opportunities for just pursuing their own passions. It was always, you got to do this, because it's going to look good on a high school, college resume. Now, let's put it in, what would you like to learn? Here's this great opportunity. You always wanted to knit? Okay. You always wanted to learn workshop? Okay. What you do at this point is you find another parent who's got that skill, or some YouTube tapes who have that skill. Get a group of kids who want to do the same hobby together, and maybe it's every Tuesday night, we're all going to learn to knit together. But you're doing it on a Zoom link, and what you're doing is helping a child learn to connect, but also learning a hobby. Maybe it's practicing or learning violin that they're going to learn to use the rest of their lives together to relax.
So many good things I want to call out there. One of them is not obviously, the reminder of self-care, and that as family members, we are mirrors that students are going to replicate. The second one is shared experiences build connection. And I love the movie Google Doc and sharing that with family members or friends. And that last one of I had this conversation just the other day with my roommates on how many things have been done in the pursuit of this will look good on the resume, and how much of our world is oriented around that. So it kind of takes me to the thought of, why are students stressed right now? Like, sometimes it helps to label why that stress is real for so many young people right now. What is the fear? What is happening? Is it the breaking of routines? Is it watching family members struggle? What is the cause of this, so we can help be reflective or responsive to it?
That's exactly what the CDC is trying to figure out. And unfortunately, there's no cookie cutter answer to it. Each child is a little different, but therefore it comes to us as a parent, even when we've got 3 kids in a house, to figure out what's stressing each of our kids out, and then answering that by giving them. For some kids, it's failure of they needed that ritual. They need those routines. And it's just simply every morning, let's just pick up just an old index card and write down, what are you going to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth? Good. Or put them in Post-it notes. And as you finish each one, tear it off. But it's getting down to certainty, because the uncertainty is really hurting some children. The second thing is picking it up on us. Many kids say, it's my mom or my dad is so stressed and I'm so worried about it. So it may be, yes, keeping yourself less stressed, but it's also having a talk with your child. Sitting down and saying, I bet you think that I'm stressed, or here's what I'm worried about. What are you noticing? It's that honest conversation. And it may not be in one talk. It's better to do it in small little chats along the way. But one thing you may want to do is start using emotion terms in your talks with your kids. When kids can recognize emotions like I'm anxious, or I'm really irritated, or I'm getting upset or frustrated, first, they'll know that they have permission to use those terms in your house, that it's okay. And second of all, that's really the first step to be able to regulate them later on. If you want your child to be able to cope, they have to be able to identify, I'm starting to get anxious, or mom's starting to get anxious. You may want to do something simple in your house of have a calm down corner. Have your kids create it. Don't buy a thing. Just use everything you already have and ask each of your child, what helps you get that stress down a little more? Some kids, it's music, then that putting an iPad right there with kind of musical selections that helps you. It could be koosh balls for some children. It could be pillows, or maybe it's back to the book, or glitter jars. And then the moment you start to feel anxious, and you can even have just a wonderful thing of nothing more than just a rating scale. You don't have to say a thing. It's just, that means I'm on a 5, I'm about ready to explode. Then go over and sit down and calm yourself down, sweetie pie. If we all give our kids permission, and we ourselves, to use that calm down corner wherever it is in your house, it is a wonderful thing, because the rest of your children's lives, they'll be able to set that up wherever they live. It could be in your kid's bedroom. A third thing is the worries, the worry factors that are really going up. Interesting, and we notice that a lot of our younger children are much more fearful than they were before. And one of the things that they're scared about is they keep hearing this thing about the virus. We're all going to get the virus, and it's like a big boogeyman. You can chunk fear to children. It's a really simple little strategy, but once you know and can identify it's the virus, maybe let's say that's what's your child's biggest worry, then let's chunk it. Okay, I bet you we can figure out how to help you. Today, let's open the window. You're okay, aren't you, at the end of the day? Tomorrow, let's open the door and put your foot out. The next day, let's open the door and walk 3 feet or 2 feet or whatever down to the mailbox. You're chunking the child's fear. And what you're actually doing is giving him a sense of agency and control. When you do that, fears go down, because one of the greatest ways to help a child learn that he can get through it is to feel he has control. And there's another reason why our kids are so stressed. They don't feel that sense of control over their lives right now, and we've got to give it to them. I think the final thing is that news is killing us all off. when you turn on that news and all a kid is seeing every day is the daily death count of how many people died today, that can do a real number. Two kids who I adore, a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old, sisters from Philadelphia, got so tired of the doom and gloom. Once again, just ask a kid, they'll come up with a solution. They went down to their bedroom and started making videos of good news. What they actually did was make a 3-minute video, found a good thing that was happening in their neighborhood, or a report about a real good kid that was down the street or in the newspaper, put it on the video, and then just sent it out to their friends. Well, their friends sent it to their parents. Their parents said to their kids, tell those kids to keep making those videos. So what's happening is those videos have gone viral because the newspapers are picking it up. The news commentators are interviewing the kids. And the sisters are just saying, it's what kids need, you know, we need to hear the good stuff. So maybe one other thing is, besides turning off the doom and gloom reports, is looking through the back pages of the newspapers. They're incredible things that children are doing. Incredible, tear-jerking stuff, because they want to make a difference in the world. When you can find a meaningful way to help a child find purpose or contribute to making a difference, just little things about the way, it's one of the best ways to reduce stress and boost empathy.
I love the key takeaway there for me as I think about chunking fear for a younger person is also my own chunking of fear, right? That sometimes if I'm not used to speaking about those feelings, it can feel vulnerable or awkward. I haven't had those conversations, that we don't have to launch into all of the pain and all of the fears right at once. But we can share little irritations, small annoyances, small moments of overwhelm, and chunk that fear for ourselves in order to share more into our young people's lives. Dr. Borba, you are such a gift. We're out of time as usual. There's just too much good stuff.
Forever. I just love talking to you.
Well, here's the deal. We will have more of these conversations on video for sure, but also Unselfie, if you haven't read it yet, is such a gift to the world, and it is similar to the way we talked about it today, broken up by developmentally appropriate strategies to build empathy. And Dr. Borba's new book is coming out here very soon called Thrivers. So if you want to dig into more of that, please check that out. But in the meantime, thank you, Michele, as usual, for the context and the problem and the solution back to back. You're the very best.
Thank you. Thank you.